This is something we want you guys to be able to do, which is why we wanted to bring this one up, is if you can, outside of the context of the conversation or the fight, come back to it and try to understand your partner's side better. Help me understand what happened for you when I asked for clarity. Connecting couples with the real Imhoffs.
Hi, I'm Chad Imhoff.
And I'm Angela Imhoff, and we're in episode
4
of the series, The Anatomy of a Fight, where we have been breaking down why we fight, why it gets so yucky. We've explained to you that there is this temp, is the acrostic that we use, this trigger that happens, and our body quickly responds to it. We already have this meaning assigned to it. We go to these we go to these behaviors that our partner sees that sends their side a spinning, and before you know, we're in this cycle.
I like it. Their side a spinning.
Their side is spinning.
It's good.
And then we're in a fight and we're like, wait a minute, we like each other. Why right now is it so wretched? And so we have been, our last episode was the sunflower table.
Which is a beautiful thing.
We had a fun time
it was
talking
a really
about
nice
that,
thing.
reviewing it. And we're going to go into another fight.
We're diving right in.
Yeah. And we have even one more after this because we really want to give you kind of a
really tangible,
clear
practical
example.
Yeah.
This is what this looks like in our relationship. This is kind of similar to when we help couples walk through fights or walk through these cycles. Some of the familiar things that we hear that really align with the same thing. So we're diving in.
All right, y'all. This is something that I've kind of gotten interested in, and something that I enjoy. I like to ride my bike. I'm not like one of these guys who's got the full on. I'm not
bicycle, not like motorcycle.
Yeah, I'm not full mammal like some people say, like middle-aged man in lycra or whatever.
I never heard that before. That's great.
I'm not that serious, but I am.
He does have the fancy pants with the padded bottom.
I do, but I normally don't like just wear the spandex outfit. I think that's a little bit offensive, especially on me. I'm not trying to be hard on myself, but I'm like, no, but I do like to ride my bike, and I do enjoy that. I like getting outside and doing some things. So me and Angela and our daughter Avery, we're going to go see my brother in Colorado, and we're planning this trip and kind of thinking about it. We're going to drive the truck out and
it's like a 12-hour drive.
Yeah, take all the stuff with us, and we like to drive. We like road trips, so we like to listen to music and books on tape and that sort of stuff. So we're looking forward to this. And the night before we're about to go, we're packing up, loading the truck up, and I come upstairs and I go, hey, Ange, I was thinking about taking my bike with me, my mountain bike, because there's the trails over there by Josh's place. I might ride it some while we're out there. And I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I wasn't positive.
I want to know, before we get into this, had you played out that pitch in your head prior to just pitching it casually at that particular moment?
I don't know if I had played it out very much. I thought that would be fun, and I work out some. I ride my bike some when we're at home, and I was just like,
I often blame him for not thinking things through, and so I just wanted to check.
Am I in trouble right now?
No.
I don't feel that way.
We're upstairs the night before a trip, right? The packing. I don't know.
You were packing for Avery and yourself. That's not fair, but it happens.
I pack for the family, and so for me also, there's just this thing that I do where I like the house to be clean before we go, and I like all the laundry done, and so the day before we go on a trip,
I like for you to do that
sometimes is a little bit frantic at the house. And so there we are. It's late. It's later in the evening than I would have liked it to be. I've got 4 suitcases on our bed, all, packing. And Chad comes in and says,
let's say it's 9:30 at night.
I think I want to bring I want to kind of paint
my mountain bike,
a clear picture that I have a bike and we have this little cart and Avery rides behind us when we bike together as a family. Avery also has a bike. We're teaching her how to bike. There are multiple bikes. So when Chad pitches my bike, I start to go, my bike, like one bike. You want to bring one bike on our family vacation to see your family. And I can feel in my
trigger.
I can feel it. It hits me and I go, before I go, uh-oh, because it's not quite an uh-oh. I'm like, my body is not registering this information accurately. And I've learned, because we listen to our own podcast, that's a weird thing to do, but like we learn from ourselves. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, Angela. It goes really fast, and so my body just took in content, and it's trying to decipher the content. And I think it's starting to hit that he doesn't. We just in the last episode inclusion is the word. Just include me in your process. And he wants to bring his bike. There's no inclusion in one bike. So before I freak out,
you could ride on the handlebars.
You could tell I'm old. I used to do that as a kid. My brother would ride me on the handlebars.
Maybe not. Go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
Before I really let myself get too much, because as a pursuer, I'm really working hard on trying to like hold back the energy, not explode, not control. I don't want to control. I just want to ask for clarity.
Hey, I think I'm going to ride my bike.
Can I just ask for clarity,
just bring
Chad?
it with me to Colorado.
I just want to ask for clarity. And I think I even said that, but here's the thing. Sometimes when Angela says to Chad, can I just ask for clarity? Even that is condescending. And it wasn't my intent, but it's almost like I'm now talking to 5-year-old Chad and not 45-year-old Chad. 44, I apologize.
Thank you.
And so I said, I want to ask for clarity just so I can understand. And I think
what
in that moment,
is.
he already...
I'm like,
we've had these conversations about showing your work. And so here I am, and I say to Chad, when you envision yourself riding your bike, the one bike you're bringing, where
even that, I'm like,
now can you see?
This is going bad.
Where are your wife and child? That's what I asked him.
When you're riding this one bike by yourself, where are your wife and child?
And he's like, forget it. I'm
like, immediately I go right to, okay, this isn't happening.
Not worth it.
This is going to be trouble. This is going to go bad. I'm
love
clearly
our
getting
fight
something
so much.
wrong.
It's a chat. Here's the thing.
I don't know if I love them. Like today I love them, but when it's the moment, man, it's crazy.
This is the thing that I've been trying to work on, because as Chad and I have been having more, wording around what's happening for us, there's this part of me, I'm like, listen, you like to go riding. I want to encourage that. He goes riding sometimes with this men's group, and I definitely want to encourage that. I'm like, this is something I want to make space for you to do.
Yeah.
And so then I can feel this internal dilemma that I have of, do I bring up that I'm feeling excluded, dismissed, not considered, or do I just let it ride? So my hope in asking for the clarity wasn't to control. I didn't come out and say, no, don't bring your bike, you dummy. I just said,
been rude.
Let me just ask for clarity. When you're riding your bike by yourself, where are your wife and child? In retrospect, that wasn't the best way I could have worded that.
As the fight went along, I think I said napping.
He did. He's like, sometimes you nap in the afternoon. Truth. Sometimes you, especially on vacation, try to sleep in, and he is still on his normal time clock and gets up at 6:30. So there were some different ways it could have gone, and when we reviewed the tape, it was important. At any rate, in that particular moment, he's like, yeah. And this was something withdrawers do. He covers well. He said, yeah, you're right. I didn't think that through. I'll just let it. It's probably kind of, I don't want to have the hitch and the bike on the long trip.
Yeah.
And so he quickly came up with the reason why he was just going to let it go. We didn't have the conversation.
Let's just dismiss it.
And he did. And he even got up and helped me pack the rest of the clothes. And we went on. The bike did not go with us to Colorado, but the conversation stuck with me enough.
A single tear right now. This is a single tear. I didn't take my bike with me.
So we're on the road trip to Colorado, and I decide I want to bring it up because it's there. And so I said, hey, we didn't bring your bike on this trip, even though you kind of expressed that you were interested in. I really want to understand. I want to get inside the mind of a withdrawer. Can you help me understand? So he's driving, and Avery's, reading a book, taking a nap, watching a movie in the car on our road trip where we listen to books on tape. And so she's busy, and we have this conversation. And I just kind of say, help me understand what happened for you when I asked for clarity. And so this is something we want you guys to be able to do, which is why we wanted to bring this one up, is if you can, outside of the context of the conversation or the fight, come back to it and try to understand your partner's side better. And so I did. Chad, what do you remember what your answer was? What was your answer?
Well, I feel on the spot. No, my answer was I wanted to bring the bike. You asked, and I kind of felt like I was in trouble. Maybe I hadn't considered you, and honestly, I had kind of my own reservations about it. And I thought, well, if she's on board with it, I could take it. If not, then I'm not going to take it. And then immediately I heard you say that, and it just kind of shut me down. It just locked me up. I'm like, oh, you know what? Forget this. I'll just leave it here.
Not worth the fight.
Not
if
worth
it's
the
gonna
fight.
upset you.
I'm not going to, and I'm like, so then I end up not getting what I want, which
Yeah.
actually leaves me with some resentment, right?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, ugh, so
And
she's
so-
just thinking about herself, right?
Well, so he brought basically that same answer when I asked him, and I'm
Yep.
like, oh man, I hate that for you. And so here we are now having a conversation about that fight, and I'm like, how could that have gone differently? I want you to get the things that you want or ask for, but sometimes the pitch hits me wrong, and I want to ask for clarity, but when I ask for clarity, that hits you wrong, and before you know it, we're 7 layers deep into a cycle where there's now resentment. You're not getting to bring your bike.
Yep.
I feel offended and excluded, and when we just avoid it and never come back to it, and it's left unresolved. The likelihood that he's going to ask to bring his bike on another vacation, slim to none.
No, 100%. I'm going to take it next time we go.
No.
I'm not even going to ask. I'm going to hook it
So
up.
here's what I said to him. The following month, we decided to take another road trip to see my parents, and I brought it up. And I said, hey, what would it look like for us to bring our bikes?
Yeah.
Because I not only wanted him to bring his, but that inclusion part was really important. And he was like, okay.
Yeah, well, and your dad's been riding his bike, and so we brought it to ride with him and all that stuff too. But like, yeah, there was this like, okay, let's do that. As we kind of back in, and I want to go back. To
yeah, sure.
It's like that night, you know, I come in and I'm kind of busy too, and I think I was actually sweating because I'm like cleaning the truck out or making sure we have things loaded. I'm loading these heavy kind of the equipment. We haul around all this like video and stuff equipment with us.
We did.
Because
I think we were going to record
doing
a podcast in Colorado,
oh
so
my
we brought
goodness,
all of
we
our
brought
stuff.
tons of stuff. And so I'm loading stuff, moving stuff, and I'm like, oh man, it'd be nice to take my bike to ride while I'm out there. And I haven't been able to do that. I've run while I was in Colorado some, but I thought, and so I come in and I kind of did have this thing I wanted. I had this thing I hoped for. And this is really kind of the sad thing because I put myself in my own trap at this point. I come in and I go, hey, I'm thinking about taking my bike to Colorado with us. And I don't really pitch, hey, this is why, or this is what I want, or this is what it means to me, or this is why I would be excited about it. There was a completely left out portion of what was going on. And so then Angela's like, what are you talking about? Like, this doesn't even make sense.
Let me just ask for clarity. Where are your wife and child when you abandoned them?
Again, and you're always hard on yourself.
I was like, where do you envision us when you're doing that? I tried my best to hold back the tone, but something happened in you then and you just dismissed it.
And so I'm like, you know what? This is sad, you guys. Withdrawers, we end up like shooting ourselves in the foot. Then we don't get what we want. And then we end up kind of mad at everybody else. I say mad, resentful. Like there's a bit of me that's in Colorado, even when we went. And I'm like, man, I wish I had my bike. Yeah. I would ride my bike. I'd go do this thing.
And there were quite a few times when I did take a nap, or Avery and I
there
were
was lots of chances
playing in the
to do
pool
it. Yeah.
or something that you could have done it. I want to take a minute to kind of honor the thing that a withdrawer does that hurts themselves. Because in this moment, I hear a lot of times withdrawers will say, I don't feel seen, and I don't feel like my pursuer really gets me, or my partner really gets me, if the partner's a pursuer, obviously. And so this is a really a trap for withdrawers, because in that moment I ask for clarity, and he can hear in my tone that, I think she's just going to be upset with me, and it is not worth the fight. I would rather sacrifice what I want to save our relationship than to get what I want and risk that she's going to be upset with me. But over time, then he doesn't get seen. He feels like I am maybe selfish or don't see him. And so that's the challenge here. And here's the move that in this time the pursuer made, that I made the next day when we're driving. And I said, hey, I think you got missed in that. I really wanted to know more. My clarity that I was asking for was me trying to see you. But the move we have, that trigger that we're talking about, when I asked a question, that shortcut your brain took that says, when she's asking a question, she's interrogating, so I better just go to default, which is withdraw, missed an opportunity for him to clarify, for me to understand more, and for us to really go to this deeper place.
Yeah.
So the next day when I asked, we were on the road, and I really got an understanding, that's what I wanted to bring up, why 3 weeks later, I'm like, okay, now that I took the time to review what happened there and I understand my partner better, I want to try to promote that he's seen, that I see him. And so I'm like, let's bring your bike. Well, you actually biked like every day in Louisiana when we went.
Yeah, your dad did. He drugged me along I had a great time with him. But
you had a partner in crime.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, that's the truth.
You get missed.
With drawers, we get missed, and it's really our own fault. It's like we've been trained not to fight for what we want.
But you do it to protect the relationship.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to upset, or the conflict is not worth it. And
this doesn't feel good for a withdrawer to say this, so I'm going to say it. And if it doesn't fit you, if you're listening, you're like, I don't do that. But it's like there is this like internal thing that's like, I almost don't deserve the thing I want. Like I don't deserve. I don't. And I want the thing, but it's like it's almost like if I stand up and say this is what I want, this is how I want it, that somehow I don't deserve it anyway. And so like it starts with this other belief.
But the belief, I think, is rooted in our cycle, because it's a hidden message that I don't mean to imply. But when I say to you, and just where are your wife and child when you're on your bike ride by yourself? The implication is you are selfish, and a selfish person doesn't deserve to take their own bike ride. I mean, it really kind of pitches that. Like somehow if you were to take a bike ride in the mountains
by myself,
which would be great self-care actually, that somehow that you're bad. That's the hard part there, is that in my asking for clarity, a little bit of my protection shows up that says, don't abandon me. Don't go, where are we? Don't you care about us? That's about me. That's not about him.
Yeah.
But because he feels that energy and feels the need
withdrawers
to
are
protect
so sensitive to that.
Oh, I know.
So sensitive to that. And a lot of times it looks like they don't care. Like
They
even
care
your
so
question,
much.
even your question is like, you don't even care about us. I mean, there's an
That's
implied,
the implication.
Yeah. But I'm like, I'm so sensitive to that I'm like, no way. Then I'm not going to do it. There's no way I would do that.
And here's the really bad part. It's not like he says to me, when you and your daughter are taking a nap, have you ever thought about what I do for that hour? I'm like, no, I'm taking a nap. Why would I think about that?
I'm asleep. I can't think about you.
But it doesn't work the other way around. It's really, really unfair, the thing that these cycles do, the perception that we have of our view of self and our view of other, that in that moment, pursuers don't see withdrawers because withdrawers don't show themselves for the sake of the relationship.
And if a withdrawer doesn't show themselves, right, then the relationship is really kind of in a perilous place. Yeah. I mean, there's no way for you to come alongside or be invited into the experience. And so a lot of times when we start to talk about withdrawers, it's like this conversation seems short or sweet, or I say sweet, not sweet so much, but like short. It's not a long conversation, because it's like, oh, you don't want me to do that? Okay, I won't do it. Yeah. Whatever. I shut down. I go away. I go do my next task. Internally, though, there is a resentment that builds.
Yeah.
And the nasty thing is, eventually, if I don't address some of that stuff, if I don't say, hey, that hurt, that I do want to take this, and I do have some needs that I want to be met, right? Eventually, the withdrawer a lot of times ends up looking for ways to meet it on their own, or not including the partner in the process.
Which, as we learned in the last episode, inclusion is what we desire so greatly. And so that is really hard, is that over time, when we really get polarized in these scenarios and we're on the other sides, that there's less and less and less inclusion, and that pursuer does feel more and more and more left out.
Yeah.
So part of this, and we want to come to the connect point about this specific topic, is the idea that there are going to be times, and in the last episode, in the last episode, when we were kind of breaking down the pursuer, kind of recognizing what their side was. In this one, I really want to highlight for both sides, trying to open up space for the withdrawer to really be seen. And the challenge when a pursuer goes, okay, I do want to try to open up space. I do want to try to give my withdrawer some space or a chance to share. But it is led with clarifying questions, how quickly that can go to feeling interrogation. I kind of want, Chad, for you to give an example of how a pursuer and a withdrawer, how a couple could shift that interaction. So there you are, and you say, I want to bring my bike to Colorado. And I am like, let me just ask for clarity. How can that go better for the withdrawer to actually say, this is what I'm thinking?
Yeah. I mean, if this is not gonna, I I don't know that this works every single case, because I think we're using like kind of a little bit of a mashup here, but I would say, like, in that scenario, if I come in and I say, hey, I'm thinking about bringing my bike to Colorado.
I'm thinking about A, B, and C. Whatever the thing is, I'm thinking about this.
I'm bringing my bike to Colorado. It's fine. But I'm like, I'm thinking about doing this thing, and it hits you in that way. You probably just need, and you're asking how a pursuer could do it. So I'm like, then I think you would probably say, hey, I'm feeling anxious about that. I feel like I picture myself sitting in the house alone, and it makes me feel nervous, right? Like, it makes me feel like I'm going to be left again.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm not important.
So I really, in my mind, ran down 7 or 8 other, not just bike to Colorado. I want to buy an old car to fix up. We've had that conversation. Yeah. I want to buy a new computer. I want to go on a vacation. I want to build a garage in the back. I want to, whatever those are.
I can tell you how it won't go well. Like, it's what we all do.
And then the pursuer goes, well, why,
what are you thinking? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And it's like, and then it implies that the withdrawer is an idiot or something. And withdrawers are like really sensitive to that.
The tone shames. Why would you even think that? When really the pursuer is saying, could you help me understand why you would think that?
And the pursuer is and you in this case, as the pursuer, you're saying, oh my gosh, that doesn't feel so good. Could you help me out with this?
Yeah.
Is really what you're asking.
Yes.
And you're not saying, I don't want you to have things you want.
Yeah.
That's not it.
So I hear you saying in that bike moment, there you are saying, I want to bring my bike to Colorado. And I come back with, let me just ask for clarity. Instead to say, I'm thinking about the question you just asked, and there's just this fear that you want to go on a bike ride by yourself and leave. Where am I in that scenario? I feel a little bit left out.
Yeah. Honestly, though, okay.
Even that's a little blamey.
No, it's not. Even if you do that, I'm not going to receive it well. So I don't think that that isn't your problem. You asked for a question.
Yeah,
the question was you, but the answer is probably still me. It's like, I have to be able to take that feedback that, hey, this doesn't feel good to you.
Yeah.
And go, I know it doesn't, but this self-care is important to me. We're going on this trip so that we can have a little bit of a break. And this is something I really enjoy. Listen, I need to, I'm the pursuer now. You're going to listen.
You just put a finger in my face.
I need to include you in that.
Yeah.
Like, I need to say, hey, this is what I want. This is what I like. And I need to have the courage to let you into my desires and my longings. So
here is the connect point for this episode. It's a really tricky one, and both sides. A, if you're the withdrawer, it is really important that you start to try to articulate those wants, those needs, those thoughts, because you do deserve to be seen, and your partner really wants to be included in them. Even if at first it throws them off or makes them feel caught off guard or unsteady, a little bit of conversation or clarity that feels uncomfortable often can get to the other side. So that's the withdrawer's side, is learning how to have a conversation that says, I want to learn how to, or I want to try harder to make myself seen. Pursuer, the important thing you can do, even if you can't win it in the moment, and I couldn't then, the next day I came back to it and said, I think you didn't get seen. I think I missed you. I think you had something you were trying to bring to the table, and I asked a question and shut it down. Yeah. Can we come back to it? I do care, and I do want to know. I want to be included. And that's what we're asking you in this particular episode, to have that conversation about including each other in that, so that withdrawer can be seen. Yep. That is all our time. We are so grateful that you're listening. We would love it if you have time. The best thing you can do is refer us to another couple that you know that would benefit from this, but you can rate us and review us on iTunes or in Google. That really helps us out. And if you want to know more about our mission, our passion, our story, check out our website, therealimhoffs.com. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks, y'all.